Hey, welcome back to Positive Connections Radio. Before we start, I'll give you a description about who is going to be on. You guys are going to love them. And first, I would like to thank Mental Health News Radio Network. They are my network, and a special thanks to the CEO, Kristen Walker. She is an amazing person. She has her own podcast. She does at least one podcast a day. If you go on to mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com, you can see all the listings of the podcast there. Not just first responder related. I'm talking about anxiety, depression, narcissism, you name it. It's on there. Check it out. Kristen Walker and mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Also, Christy Warren's on there, really good friend of mine, and she has a podcast for first responders, not just firefighters. She was a firefighter. She was on this podcast, and she has her own called the Firefighter Deconstructed. So check it out. Also, I'm starting a YouTube page. Actually, I've had a YouTube page for quite a while, but I'm starting to post my podcast on the YouTube page. So if you can go there and subscribe, that would be really great. I don't know why, but it's might be some for ego, and it looks good if I have more than 7 subscribers, and I think most of them are my family members. And check out my page on Facebook, both under Positive Connections Radio. So I'm going to introduce our guest today. His name is James McLintock. He is a licensed marriage family therapist. He was a police officer and decided to become a therapist, and now he works with first responders in therapy. So I will introduce you to him in a second. I got a quick brief to read to you, and then we'll get on with it, all right? This is episode 57. It's titled Police Officer to First Responder Clinician. I made that up. Hey, Jim's a good guy. I met him, and I haven't worked with him yet. However, we went to dinner, and he bought me a steak, so he can't be too bad. If you want to look him up, actually look him up. His website is www.mcclintockcounseling.com. I don't know why I say www. You know how to get to him. mcclintockcounseling.com, MCLINTOCK counseling.com. And here we go. James always had a passion to be in service to those in need. Early on, he became a lifeguard, EMT, and then a police officer for the City of Anaheim throughout the 90s and early 2000s. In the time post 9/11, he noticed several of his police teammates who had been reservists who were called to active duty return, and how the negative impacts of battle had on his friends. Many were suffering from PTSD, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, trauma, suicidal thoughts, addictions to pain medications, and alcohol abuse. His coworkers were encouraged to get help and attend counseling sessions. However, many would not because they feared that the therapists did not have the familiarity with working with first responders and could not really relate to them. They call that being culturally competent, and they were not. So James decided that he would better serve others by becoming a therapist, so he would have more credibility than just earning a degree in counseling. James retired as a police officer and went back to school and earned a master's degree in clinical psychology with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy. Since 2008, James McClintock has been the go-to clinician for first responders in San Diego County. Check him out, look him up. He's all over the place, and give him a call. Enjoy the show and have a good rest of your day. Hi, this is Mike Cook, and welcome to Positive Connections Radio. This show is intended to help break the stigma of mental health issues among first responders. I know from personal experience how PTSD, depression, and addiction can take over your life while suffering in silence. I was a police officer for 19 years and spent the last 10 years of my career as an undercover narcotics detective. I didn't reach out because of fear, lack of trust, shame, and stigma. It took me losing it all before I got help. With a new perspective and passion for life, I can now help others find a way out. Working together with peer support, wellness units, and the mental health and recovery field, we can bring about positive change for the ones who protect us all. The guests in this show offer unique and valuable information, support, and experience, and are the voice for those waiting to be heard. Enjoy the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Positive Connections Radio. I am here with Jim McLintock. Jim has quite a great story. He is a therapist, and he was a police officer. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, thanks. How are you today? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great, and thanks so much for being on. I know your story for the most part, and I think it's very important to share about how you got into law enforcement, getting into law enforcement, what happened in law enforcement that brought you into therapy and helping the first responders get the help that a lot of times don't think that they're able to do it, or don't think it's confidential or safe to actually ask for help and talk to somebody.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. It's kind of a roundabout story that involved my mom and dad at the very beginning, who met and fell in love in a small town in Ohio. My dad was enlisted in the Marine Corps in World War II and then served again in the Korean War. And he was stationed out here at Camp Pendleton, which I'm in Oceanside. And Camp Pendleton, well, if you're local, you know where it is. If you're not, it's just about 3 miles north of Oceanside. And I was raised pretty much on base. I got a real love for our men and women in uniform. And, I have this story. My dad taught me how to salute the flag. And when I used to visit him, he eventually retired from the Marine Corps, and he got a job in the post office out at Camp Pendleton. And I would visit him, and it was always at sunset when he was coming home from work. And so we would stop every time they would do the colors. They'd bring the flag down. I think is it called To the Colors? And they would do their trumpet song, and we would stand there. My dad would make sure I had my hand over my heart, and he would stand there and do the same. So I had this just ingrained love for folks that are giving back to our country: military, police, firefighters, all that, doctors, nurses. And so as I grew, one of the things about my mom was she did not know how to swim. So she made sure that all of her kids knew how to swim. And that was the first thing. Age 3, I started in the swimming pool and got on swim teams. And I just fell in love with aquatics. And then at age 10, I was a junior lifeguard in the very first crop of junior lifeguards in Oceanside. And I did that from 10 until I was 18. And at 18, I became a full-time lifeguard. My first job was on base at Pendleton, teaching swimming lessons at the old 13 area and 17 area pools out there. And then that progressed into a beach lifeguard career that I did for, another 30 plus years. I was looking to further. I love emergency medicine. I love helping people. To me, there was nothing better than swimming out in a bunch of big surf and helping somebody get back in safely. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of my career. I really enjoyed talking to people. I had some of the best conversations of my life as I was going out to save somebody. This massive rip current looks like the size of the Colorado River. We're heading right toward the San Clemente Pier in 6-foot surf. And I'm just going, hey, so what's your name? Where are you from? Hey, that's the pier right there. We're going to go through in a couple of seconds. It's going to be the funnest ride of your life. Just do me a favor. Don't touch anything as we go through,
Right.
And so I've had this ease of communication with people. And then also I tend to see the positive in things. I tend to see a lighter side of life a lot of time. And then I decided on being a police officer. And I had a number of job opportunities that were offered to me, and I settled on Anaheim. And one of the reasons I went to Anaheim was it's kind of like a mini Los Angeles. There's a lot of action happening in Anaheim, and I really enjoyed that opportunity.
What brought you, Jim, to become a cop and maybe not a firefighter or something else?
You want a true answer, or should I make something up?
Whatever sounds the best on radio is great.
Well, I'll tell you what, I saw the size of the lines and how many people were applying to be firefighters and such. And I thought, and I tried, and it was just huge. It was just I couldn't get hired. And I was young back then too. It seemed like they wanted more experienced people. And so
is it hard as a former police officer to admit that you wanted to be a firefighter first?
Oh, heck no. Are you kidding me? The firefighters loved me in my town. I was that police officer that would chase after the paramedics or chase after the fire trucks. Mm-hmm. And I pulled the people over that were failing to yield to their lights and sirens, and they would give me the thumbs up. I had the best dinners. I could go by and sit and watch the Super Bowl. I don't have any problem with it at all.
I'm with you 100%.
I think I was more paramedic firefighter anyway. And as far as seeing the gray area versus being more of a black and white, letter of the law person, I'm definitely spirit of the law.
Sure. So you went to the academy and they hired you on?
Anaheim hired me, and went to the academy, and I made it through, and made it through my probation. And then as soon as I got out, the police chief was talking to me, and he was developing. Anaheim's a big town. A lot of people come in there every day, over 1 million visitors every day to see Disneyland and everything else they got going up there. And he was creating a crisis response team, which was like the precursor to the current PERT teams that are out there now. And he loved the fact that, and this blew my mind. In my world, everybody was an EMT. Everybody was an emergency medical technician, that you had to be that to be an ocean lifeguard.
Right.
And I was stunned to find out that I was the only EMT on the Anaheim Police Department. And so he wanted to put me right away on this crisis response team that they were developing. And it was actually in that position where I really fell in love with psychology, and I really fell in love with helping people, trying not necessarily to make arrests, but going into situations and trying to find solutions, trying to get people pointed in the right direction to give them some help. A lot of psychological crisis, depression, anxiety, attempt suicide, domestic violence, marriages or relationships, struggling, and the tension and difficult emotions that go with that, child custody things. So I really enjoyed that opportunity. And here was the turning point. This was back in the 1990s when we had Desert Storm, our wars in the Middle East, and a number of my colleagues that I worked with were in the reserves in the military, and they got called in to serve. Some of them died and didn't come back. The ones that did come back were just mere shells of their former self. They were struggling, and I kept hearing this common complaint from all of them. They're trying to find a counselor to talk to. They're worried that it's going to end their career. They're worried that if they have depression or anxiety or PTSD, it's going to stop them from being promoted or end their career. And they couldn't find a person that understood military life, law enforcement, public safety, and they were having a hard time making that connection with a therapist. And I heard the same thing repeated with the fire service too. And that's when it just dawned on me, like the light went on. You know what? I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that guy that's going to bridge this gap. And I got focused on going back to school, getting my master's in clinical psych and emphasis in marriage and family therapy, getting licensed. And here I am. And it's just been an amazing, amazing journey to be here.
That's how long were you a police officer for? I
was there, I want to say 13 years, 1990 to 2003, as my memory recalls.
Well, that's great. Because you don't hear that very much. A cop decides to get his degree and then give it up, police work, to get into counseling and therapy.
It's crazy.
It is. So when I first met, I'm like, that's great. You have a good story. So you got out and you started your own business, and what happened from there? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I missed. No, I was gonna say, did you keep in touch with the people that you worked with? Did they use you as referrals? And what did the department think? What did the whole outlook of everybody that you worked with, your peers? What did they think about your idea? What you wanted to do? Go ahead.
Well, it's funny. I'm generally, I know you probably can't tell from this podcast, but I'm generally a private person, and I tend to keep my plans to myself or to my circle of family and friends.
And now you're telling the whole world.
And I didn't know you had that big of an audience. Yeah, wow. It's like, nicely done. Hello, world.
The size of Newport, maybe.
Really? Well, that's where I love to play beach volleyball at CBS. Right. Anybody that's watching this in Corona Del Mar, how you doing? So anyway, I just kept it to myself that I wanted to leave and go in a different direction. I really just told human resources And the truth be told is I never really, I come from this ocean aquatic background. Most of my friends are surfers, body surfers, beach volleyball players, male and female. And I really didn't hang out a whole lot with off-duty, police officers and such. I knew them professionally. I knew I knew them personally, but I just would do my own thing when I was off duty. And I even kept lifeguarding at the same time. We were on a 312 plan. So I got to, lifeguard for my 4 days off, which was great. But I just told HR, and then they let the chief and everybody know, and nobody really could believe that I was going to leave because, after 12 or 13 years on, you want to try to make it to 20 years or 30 years, and get vested and get your retirement. But it just wasn't in my heart. It just wasn't my heart. And so I just exited, stage left. Living in San Clemente. And so Anaheim was a far way up, and I was down in this neck of the woods and just got busy getting laser focused really on going back to school and getting my degree.
Great. So you left the department and then you opened up your own place. What did you start? What kind of company did you start? Did you work for somebody or did you just work under yourself?
I had to have somebody, I had to get a job to enable to go back to school. And that old adage, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I was really involved in my old church up in South Orange County Mariners. And I just started asking people, hey, I need something else so I can go to school. And this complete stranger walked up to me because he was a friend of a friend of a friend that I told. He was the vice president of this architect firm in Newport Beach. And he goes, hey, are you Jim? I go, yeah. And he goes, I'm Grant. And he goes, I hear you're looking for work. And I was like stunned, and the next thing I'm walking down this beautiful office, building in Newport by the airport. And I'm helping him out, learning the job. And so I got to be able to get back to go to school doing that. But then the process of becoming a therapist, a licensed therapist is I think if they told us this early on, we would probably go and work, at a truck driving school or a pizza place, right?
Right.
I think I'm thankful they didn't tell us what we all had to go through. You have to finish the program. You have to maintain a B average at the school. I went to Azusa Pacific. So you've got to maintain a high level of education. And then you go into your practicum training, and then you go into your internship. And you have to keep accruing hours when you're seeing individuals or couples or families or children. There's a specific amount of hours you have to have that turns out to be something like 3,000 hours. 3,000 hours doesn't sound like, it doesn't sound too bad at the onset. I remember when I first got my first 100, and I thought, yay, I'm almost there, but 4 years later, right. You're finally getting the hours you need, and then studying for your licensure exams. So I was in and out of places like a lot of other interns. I was volunteering at churches. Sometimes you had a paid position. Most of the times you don't. And you just do what you need to do to get the hours that you need. And I don't think it's any different than other careers like being a physician's assistant or those kinds of things where you have to be an intern and you have to, just lean in and tighten your belt and go for it, And I kept telling myself, stay laser focused. If it was easy, anyone would do it.
Right.
But, the other piece was that I actually got placed at a all women's substance abuse facility that housed like nearly 300 people, 300 women. I never thought in a jillion years I would work in treatment and recovery. I come from a rather healthy, physically fit lifestyle. Alcoholism does run in my family of origin. And I kind of started going down that road as a partying lifeguard back in the day. And I thank God for my dad, who had a straight up man-to-man conversation with me because he had brothers that had struggled mightily. And so, but the next thing you know, I'm learning about substance abuse, treatment and recovery, and I fell in love with it. I absolutely fell in love with helping folks that were struggling. And I realized there's this old Tim McGraw song from back in the 2000s or something. It's called "I've Got Friends That Do," and he sings about kind of this very piece where this is for the downtrodden, this is for the brokenhearted, this is for the the guy that's got the habit that he can't break, know. And I think we all, if we take a moment in time and breathe for a second, I think we all realize we all have friends that do, that are in some way. And so I learned really quick that I needed to get grace and I needed to get mercy and be able to help some people out. And so I dove into the research. I really found out a lot from the brain scan imagery that was going on about addiction and recovery and what was happening in that process. And I'm so glad I added those tools to my tool belt, because it to answer your first question, it absolutely launched me into this amazing place where now I have so many tools in my tool belt.
Right.
And for the police officer, the military person, the firefighter, the paramedic, or just my clients that aren't in those professions that are struggling with alcohol or addiction, pornography, gambling,
Sure.
It's all really the same process. And so after my internship, got my license, put my shingle out, and the next thing you know, it's McLintock Counseling, and here I am working with just I think some of the most amazing people on the planet.
That's great. What a stretch to go from a police officer to a clinician, and then having the love for it and the passion to do what you do. Because you're not going to become rich becoming a clinician. You're not going to become rich being a therapist. However, you have to have that love for it and the experience, which you do as a police officer, as a lifeguard, the military, and then working with first responders and others that are suffering not only from depression, anxiety, PTSD, drugs and alcohol, and to have all that in your toolbox and to share that with others to make their own, coping mechanism toolbox to take out back home with them. So tell me a little bit about your experience dealing with first responders and fire, police, whatnot.
Sure. It's really been an amazing ride. That population is, and I'm thankful that they are so tough. I'm thankful that we have these amazing men and women that, you call 911, whether you have a medical emergency or some kind of a crime or whatever's going on, and or if you don't know, I'm telling you, you'll have complete strangers standing on the gas pedal to get to you, especially if there's a child call going out, especially if there's a drowning call or an infant that might be struggling for their health or for their very life. That really sets the police and the fire and the first responders, apart. And it gives me chills even saying it, as I go back in time to those radio calls that I used to get. And I just love that about our first responders. I love that about our firefighters. I love that about our police officers. And sheriffs. I love the fact that at 3:00 in the morning, while the rest of the city is asleep, you can call 911. They're ready and willing and able and on point at 3:00 in the morning to send help your direction. And I'm telling you what, when you call for help, you're not waking anybody up. They want to get there. They want to help you. And their foot's on the gas pedal. And a lot of times you won't hear the sirens coming because they're trying to stealth in. But I'm telling you, man, they're coming in Mach 3 the best they can. Don't tell the sergeants that because they want them to drive safe. But that's a special breed that wants to help. Make no mistake about it. And I love reaching out. But it's that there's a toughness quality to our men and women in those professions that they're so willing to help others. This is what I found. They're so willing to help others. And they're trained to kind of suck it up and tighten their belts and get through things, and they have a difficult time reaching out and asking for help. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. There's some fear about getting in trouble at work, being labeled as someone who's struggling with, some depression or anxiety or PTSD or whatever the case may be. And they don't want to lose their careers. They're struggling with painkillers because they've gotten injured at work. They've blown their discs out. They've blown their backs out. They've blown their knees out, and they're trying to limp through to get to the end of their careers. And sadly, they might get addicted. And where do you go with that? Where do you go when you are struggling with your spouse and there may be some domestic violence going on? Where do you go when you're struggling with an addiction? Where do you go when you're in those professions and you have depression or anxiety? You're thinking out of the blue, thinking suicidal thoughts, And I love that I can be one of those people out there that you can make an appointment and come and see. And this is one of the reasons why I won't take insurance. I want our notes, our records to be between me and you and nobody else. And I love that line from that. I can't remember that Tom Cruise movie where he talks about, he's a lawyer and he talks about being a ship at sea with no harbor to go to.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I view myself at the same time. You come, you talk to me, bring it on. It's between me and you. But I also have to have that conversation that, hey, look, if it gets, I have to report some things. There are some things I have to report by law, child abuse, adult abuse, elder abuse. If you're danger to yourself, danger to others, gravely disabled, you want to make a plane fall out of the sky in India or someplace. I'm gonna reach out and do what I need to do.
Of course.
But I try to tell them, but I don't get the sense that's on the radar with us. I get the sense that you're having a bad season. I get the sense you're struggling with something. Maybe it's been since childhood. And it's fascinating, Mike. And this as well. We all went through the psychological profiles when we came on. We all got that battery of tests. You remember the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory 2?
Yeah.
Right?
I did it twice.
Right. In my mind, it was like a 6-hour test. But
it was.
An hour and a half. I think it's an hour and a half, But they grind us. They grind. And it's funny about this state in our nation right now when a lot of folks are just against law enforcement and they don't understand what it takes to get into that job.
No.
How you really have to be on your A game, bio, psycho, social, and spiritually, if that's a thing. And we went through those battery of tests. And we get hired because we are on our A games. But then what happens between that first day on the job and a bunch of calls for service later when you're getting worn out, when it's really getting hard and you don't have the coping skills, you don't have the ability to regulate your emotions, or you're losing that ability, And so it can be very, very tricky. And I love it when, and generally speaking, it's the spouses that call first to set up an appointment for their mate.
Is that right?
It's generally about 98%, 99% of the time, I'm hearing from the spouses who are trying to set up an appointment, trying to get their person some help.
What do you tell them when they call you?
The spouses?
Yeah. If they call up and say, my husband, wife is having some issues, I need to get some help, but they might sort of not be into it right now. They don't really want to ask.
Sure. That's a great question, Mike. I always love to give anybody that calls me as much time as I can on a free consult phone call, see what's going on. And I encourage the spouses, number one, I'm glad you called. I'm so glad you're reaching out for help. And I try to really listen to see what's going on. And then I try to give their spouses like we're talking right now, the vibe of Jim McLintock. How does Jim roll? What's he like to talk to? And I try to come all across very relationally. That's really the most important thing to me first is let's develop a relationship. Can we have fair two-way conversations with each other? Do you feel like we can hear each other? And I try to give them the spouse that feel so they can go back to their mate and say, look, I talked with this Jim McLintock guy today. And it was very nervous. I was very nervous to call him. And he made me feel so at ease in our conversation. And I think he might be able to help you. And I say this to the mate, give him my cell number. Tell your man or your spouse to text me first. If it's easier, just text me. Let's start a text conversation and I'll build it from there. And we'll see if I'm a good fit or not.
That's awesome, Jim. And just thinking about it now, I mean, this is going to go out to a lot of people that listen to this show that want to get to know you and are listening to you right now. You can talk to them right now, and I'm sure there's people struggling. And what would they expect to coming into your office or contacting you? They call you up. What are they expecting? First of all, first responders, number one is they want to be able to trust you. Right. They want to make sure you're legit. They want to make sure it's going to be confidential, like you said. And a lot of them, they don't want their departments to know. They don't want their friends to know because the stigma surrounding this is still thick in a lot of places, if not in our minds.
Right. And, on that point, and then I'll answer the other side of the question is there are a lot of great departments out there, too, that really have their men and women's backs. I know of them personally. I've worked with a lot of great departments throughout California that are going to do their best to keep everything confidential, are going to throw everything they can at their first responders to help them out. And so I want to make sure I'm not coming across it. And I don't think you are either. I know that about you, that not every department is doing that. But yes, there is this stigma, and it is scary to think that you may not have a job, especially in this economy, in this climate.
Right.
I'd rather shut up and suck it up and not say a word and just gut through this the best I can, And I want to encourage folks that, look, and this is one of the biggest pieces I see going a little bit sideways in our current climate. We're supposed to have, or you in law enforcement and you in the fire service and the paramedic service and you first responders, you have the public trust. They expect you as the law enforcement person to be able to stand right next to them and have your guns on your Sam Brown on your belt and have all your weapons and to do the right thing. They trust you to stand right next to them. No big deal. They trust you paramedics to do the right thing on calls for service. They trust you to race across town when you need to, but not cause accidents as you do that, right? And so that's really, really important to emphasize that there's a lot of stress already on doing things right and doing the right things. And always remembering that when you're in those jobs, you are on stage. You're on stage constantly. People are always watching. People are, especially these days, always videotaping, And so I would circle back to your question. I really want to encourage whoever I speak with or text with at first, maybe even email, hey, check out my legitimacy. Go to my website, and you have to use a larger PC screen. Sorry, folks. The smartphones can't hold all the photos, but if you go look at my resume, if you go look at my biography, I have purposely put photos of myself and my old friends in action on my website, so you can take a look at me and see, oh, yeah, this Jim Mcclintock's legit, and I'm not technologically savvy. I don't know how to cut and paste photos to make myself look better or look different, or to make myself look in bigger surf. So what you see is what you get of me. But I like having that visual presence that does bring me instantaneous credibility. And I don't do that from an ego place. I do that from, I'm trying to get you, the client, as comfortable as possible, as quick as possible. And then I think the next piece is, if you have a dialogue with me, it's going to be just like this. There's going to be, like, the folks that are watching or listening didn't hear our rapport, because Mike and I know each other a bit, and we laugh and joke with each other. But I also bring that humor into my therapy office too. I try to be real. I don't try to psychobabble people to death. I certainly can, but I'd rather just, what you see with Jim is what you get. I'm here, I'm close, I'm concerned, I have heart. And I also have I have this written on my wall right in front of my screen, mercy. Have mercy. A person that's reaching out for help is not in the best place in life. And, don't get irritated at them just because they're not doing well or progressing well. It's not what I want for the client. they're not on my team. I'm on their team. I'm on your team. And I want to help you the best I can and follow your lead, And sometimes it's funny because, I think I know the way to go. Okay, that's the way we want to go. We want to go that way. This is how we should be working with each other. But you may not be ready for that. Mm-hmm. Can we just sit and talk a bit? Absolutely. Let's just sit and talk a bit. So I hope I'm answering the question. I may have gotten off course.
No, it's great. I think everything you say is perfect. And yeah, people listening, I do know Jim, and the first time I met him, he buys me a steak. So he's a great guy. Texas Roadhouse. That's a good place to eat too. By the way, they're not sponsored here, but it's a really good place. But yeah, to bring it back a little bit also, yeah, the videos in our face constantly. A lot of people out there, not everybody, but there are some out there that are just waiting for us to make a mistake. And it's nerve-wracking. we're going to respond to a call for help. We are doing our best to get there as quick as possible. We want to protect life and property and do our job because we're fit to do so, because we did pass all the tests. We did go through those psychological exams. We did the training. We do the training. And however, a small majority of the first responders that do shed a negative, dark light on the profession as a whole seem to get all the publicity. And we're getting officers dying every single day from attacks, from trying to help somebody else, ambushes, and that barely gets a YouTube or any kind of visit. So it is dangerous out there. However, we're still out there doing it, and to be able to talk to you. I mean, when I very first met you, I knew right away. Texting with you the first time, I go, I like this guy. I checked you out on your website, and I go, yeah, okay, all right. I like his last name, McLintock. That's pretty cool. And
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Do you know the origin of your last name?
Word on the street is it has some Scottish influences. So there goes my Irish potential clients.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
But I know, and I heard your name back probably 2019 or so. I heard that you were a counselor. I heard that you were a therapist and that you were a law enforcement. And then finally we get to meet together. So the climate out there is tough, and we all do need some kind of release without resorting to alcohol, overdoing it on pain medication, or violence or domestic violence.
And you bring up a great point, and the talking aspect, Mike, is so important. I have worked with so many great people. All my clients are great. And something happened along the way, whether it's been something kind of hiding in the shadows from childhood, or just the wear and tear and the daily empathy overload of having these jobs where you're listening, you're in crisis situations, you're responding to emergencies. I mean, honestly, what academy class or what school class did they ever teach anybody how to manage going from call to call to call to call, and doing these superhuman feats that quite truly our brains and our hearts and our spirits and our souls just aren't equipped to do, and yet we're doing it anyway. That's the miraculous thing, about these professions. But it's going to wear you out. It wore me out. I realized what was going on. I took steps that kind of went to go in a different direction. That's actually one of the biggest reasons why I stayed being a lifeguard. I love the fact that I could get out, I could swim, I could help in a different way, I could feel normal and do what I love to do in a different way at the same time. Be outdoors, and I didn't care if it was a rainy day, an overcast day, or a sunny day. It was just great to be on the sand, and to kind of refresh myself. And I think if I could reach out to anyone who's listening, or if you know somebody that might be struggling, the first thing that I can help with is just start talking, get it out there. And if you have a hard time talking, if you tend to isolate, that's okay. I work with people that don't talk a lot and isolate. We'll just take it a step at a time. But that's really having that awareness. I'm struggling. Maybe you know why, maybe you don't, but get wisdom on your team. Reach out. It doesn't have to be to me. Reach out to a therapist. Reach out to somebody. Get the conversation going, and kind of take it from there. It's really important. You folks are under. I don't know if I would be a police officer. I went through my generation. I think your generation went through the Rodney King riots, and that was just eye-opening to me. I was stunned at how horrible things became, and that was before the cell phones that we have now and the ability to have these flash mobs that are just overriding these police agencies, and the fact that, they're being, our law enforcement folks and even our firefighter folks, first responders, are being ambushed. Right. This is just, I don't know, all y'all, my blessings to you. Thank God you're there. Stay strong, keep your head up, stay alert. But I don't know how you're doing it. I really don't. And so just because I say that, perhaps you might be feeling the same thing. If you need to talk, reach out. You'll always feel better when you start talking. I've never seen it fail.
And if you notice something in your partners too, and like I started right at the beginning, and right before Rodney King happened, and then the cameras and the videos, and And we always got to be out there thinking that we're being videoed. And now we really are, because it's in our face. But, if it's not for you, there's a partner, there's someone in the firehouse, there's someone that maybe a family member that are presenting with signs that a lot of us just want to look the other way. We want to say, hey, I need to do my job. I don't want to get Mike in trouble here. He's having some problems. I smelled alcohol in his breath the other morning. He was okay, but he's denying, or says he drank a little bit too much the night before. Possibly the guy was up all night long and went into work for his 4-day or whatever it was. So if you start noticing, and maybe take them to the side and say, hey, there's help available. And it's you people like you, Jim, that talk about it and that know the culture and work with the culture of first responders and others too. I know you just don't specifically work just with first responders, but it's very important that you have that background and experience of walking the beat and dealing with crime. And it's great. Your story, I like it a lot, because you noticed you had a propensity to become a drunk alcoholic, maybe have a problem, a dependence issue. And you said, nope, Dad talked to me. I need to wean off this, and I'm good. I need to carry on my life. You were a cop. You had a passion to do it. You saw an opportunity and probably a bigger passion. And let me ask you right now, I mean, the passion that you have for what you're doing now, is it more than what you had for when you were a police officer? Is it the same? Is it a little bit different?
Great question. Wow, that's actually never been asked of me before. So let me think about that for a second. Okay. I had such passions in every job. I'm just one of those guys that I get on fire when I'm, what is that secret to life? Do what you love and get paid for it. Mm-hmm. And I've done that, it seems like, with all the careers that I've had. But this job in particular, it was awesome being a lifeguard. And I actually miss being a lifeguard. And I'm thinking about trying to find a way back in, whether I'm volunteering or maybe I'll just be a swim instructor again, go back to the basics. But I'm taking a look at that, because that's it's so much fun to go to work and help people. It really is. And be around positive people. Law enforcement was a lot of the same thing too. You and I can share, there are specific calls for service we've been on that we'll never forget, because it was so damn epic on how we were in that place at that time and were able to help somebody, by the grace of God. It was just epic, and then, but this counseling thing, the opportunity, the blessing, that I have to, meet people that are in similar professions a lot of the times, not always, but to be able to connect with them and to have that instantaneous connection is just a ton of fun. The ability, I love it when people toss codes at me, out to see, if I remember, hey, what's the thing for stolen cars? Oh, 10851, and you fire things back and forth. It's a crack up. I find myself saying like you get congruent in our speech. I'll say, hey, make sure you're doing this as your homework. And they'll go, Roger that. Man. And next thing you know, I'm rogering that with them, and it's a ton of fun to 10-4, a standby 1023, or, it's just a crack up. But I really enjoy connecting with folks that are in these professions, or just in general, and the ability to help on the land. It's like lifeguarding on the land to me. It really is, and so it's just another passion that I have that I'm so lucky and so blessed to have been able to pursue, and I sit here today, what's that saying that Rush Limbaugh used to say, God bless him, talent on loan from God. And I don't care where you are politically. That's how it is with me. I have talent. It's on loan from God. And I didn't get here today without some very exceptional people teaching me, training me, counseling me. I had my own personal therapist up in Orange County. Can I name drop him, or should I not name drop him?
You name drop whoever you want. It's your show.
Man, if you're looking for a psychologist, and I'm sure there's plenty out there. I'm not trying to diss anybody, but Dr. Dennis Chernikoff up there in Southern Orange County, he'll probably never hear this, but if he ever does, or if someone knows him, I've been actually thinking so much about him lately that I want to write him a letter and thank him for his presence in my life when I needed a therapist. His skill, his dedication, his ability to listen. He was one of the most influencing forces on me. And then there was my beach volleyball partner, my co-ed partner, Dr. Tika Lopez, who happens to be a psychologist. And she was another influence on me because she said these mighty words to me one day on the sands of Corona del Mar. Hey, Jim, do you know what I like about psychology? And I said, what's that, Tika? And she goes, you get to set your own schedule. And I go, really? What's that? And so here I am now. I get up early, always have, get my workouts in, do my thing. And I start work at 10:30 in the morning. And I work till 6 at night. And it's awesome. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, good. Well, I love what you're doing. And so let everybody know what your website is again and how to get a hold of you. The whole thing. I know people are going to contact you, and I'll put this on the website.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So my last name is spelled like the John Wayne movie. It's capital M, small c, capital L, Intock, McLintock. And if you just Google, it's really interesting, Mike. If you Google James McLintock, there's actually some terrorist. It's got this serious, and he pops up and it was one of the reasons why I was on the do not fly list for a while. I couldn't get an airplane ticket. So, really? Oh, totally. Yeah. True story. But anyway, if you look up James McLintock or McLintock Counseling, I wish I could Google a fun guy who does counseling and see what happens with that one.
Geez, you have when I Google your name, it's like there's 8 or 9. You can't get off this damn page. You're everywhere. I don't see.
Is it really? Wow. God bless my website team. I'm gonna shout out.
Oh yeah. It was Britton James McLintock. It was his middle name, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. You see that guy?
You're above him. You've got 8 or 7 or 8 postings before that. The first one's a picture of you. Probably the one.
Well, if anybody happens to know that guy, I'm not dissing him either. God bless him. I hope he's having a great day. So.
Yeah. I don't think he does counseling.
Okay.
Might need some.
But that's how you found me. And if you want, I don't know if you want me to give out my cell number on this or just let it be. I don't know how you roll.
It's completely up to you. I give my cell phone number out, but it's up to you.
Yeah, my cell, it's really easy. If you're mean to me, I'll just block you. No big deal. Mm-hmm. My cell is area code 760-212-0444. Again, 760-212-0444. You are welcome to text me if you'd like to reach out. You can call. The chances are it's going to go to voicemail. And please don't be, there's something about cell phones, and a lot of people like to call and hang up thinking that I'm going to go, oh, that person called me, let me call them back. And I can't roll that way because I need to know, I need to hear from you what's going on. I want to hear those things. And so I won't call back a person who doesn't leave me a message. And so if you just do me that courtesy, that would rock.
I love that because and being a counselor myself as a drug and alcohol counselor and working with first responders and in the just general people in general, if you really want help, sometimes the hardest thing to do is pick up that phone and make that call. Yeah. Or just leave a message. They don't have to talk to anybody in person, but that's the hardest part. And that's what I tell people too. If a wife or husband calls me or a friend or a referent, and I said give them my number. And sometimes they call, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they call a week later. It doesn't make a difference as long as you do call and get some guidance. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not gonna. If you said you're going to call me and you don't, it's no big deal. You just reach out whenever you want to. And I want to encourage your audience that might be thinking about calling me or somebody else and they're struggling. Do the opposite of how you feel. Call, reach out. Oh, I don't feel like doing it right now. Do it anyway. Do it right now. Reach out. Maybe you need some support. Maybe you need your spouse or a good friend to sit with you while you're making the phone call. Maybe you need them to call for you and hand the phone to you and be present with you to have your back while you're making the call. Mm-hmm. That's my encouragement to y'all.
I think one of the best things about recovery is, and what I found too, is when your story gets out and you think that you're the only one that's ever experienced this in the whole world, right. And your counselor or therapist says, I get it. You're not alone. You're telling me a story in a different manner, a different person, but I've heard it 100 times. And it's just getting that out there and actually getting that help. And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage.
It takes a ton of courage. That's almost one of the first things I say, Mike, when a person's unpacking a story with me, and I always like to say, counseling's like the counselor's like this guy or girl on an out of control parachute. You don't know me, but here I come, and I'm landing right in front of you. And as I, push the silk out of my face, I go, hey, what's your name? How you doing? How can I help you? What's going on? And you're like stuck in front of me for a little bit. But we're here to help, and we're not here to judge. And if you feel like you're being judged, find somebody else to talk to. To your point, it takes such courage to just listen to this podcast and stay with it if you're struggling. It takes such courage to continue to go to work every day and provide when you're struggling. It takes such courage to reach out to a complete stranger, Mike, Jim, whoever, and get vulnerable and get real for the first time ever in your life, and I commend that. Mm-hmm. That I always stop the session and say, let me just slow this down for a second. I admire you so much right now for your ability to just talk to me. I got your back. I'm on your team. You're doing great. Keep going. I want to hear more of what's going on. And, and I wish, and I say this on my website, we both, Mikey, all of us in the mental health profession, we wish, that I think everybody that can help people wishes they had the magic wand to fix everything, but we don't. But what we do have is heart, and what we do have is care, and what we do have is concern, and what we do have is different paths that we can guide you toward to consider taking. But truly, at the end of the day, you have to be the lead sled dog in your life. And guys like Mike and I, and the women that are out there too in the profession, we can run alongside you. We can run alongside with you. We can point some directions to consider. We can ask you to look at the past trails you've been on. Where have you ran a smooth race? Where have you crashed and burned? When have you ran into a tree? When have you gone off a cliff? Those things await us up ahead, but there's also safety up ahead. Let's use wisdom. Let's find the right paths to take. You'll find them, and you'll be running a smooth race again. And for those people out there that really think that they need to have a higher level of care, man, don't be afraid. Go for it. There are amazing men and women in the emergency rooms who are trained for this. There are amazing men and women out there that want to help. If you think you need to take some time out from life and let things settle down for a little while, this isn't my line. I got this from somebody else. It might have been Sarah Palin. God bless her. She said, I'm taking a step back to reload and relaunch. I love that. And that's how we can look at life. I'm taking a time out. I'm just going to take a step back. Let me reload. And then I'm going to relaunch my life again. So.
And you're doing really, really, really good work.
Oh, bless your heart. So are you, Mike. Thank you. And so are the rest of the folks out there doing this kind of heavy lifting with folks. And I just can't encourage people enough. If you think you need help, reach out. Not sure, reach out. What's the worst that can happen? You get a free phone call. You talk to somebody, kind of get some information on some things. And I think also for folks that are out there that need resources. Sometimes people are doing fine, but they need resources to give other people. Reach out to us. We in this industry, we tend to know who's who in the zoo, who to point people toward. So feel free. Hey, Mike, I've been wanting to ask you a question. Have you ever been interviewed? Because you have some amazing story that I learned over a Texas Roadhouse steak. And you know what? I'm not endorsing. I'm just saying.
The next one. I want to go back there again with you, man. That was great.
Yeah?
I love that
Cool.
place. Yeah.
Let's do.
Yeah.
Have you been interviewed before on your life story on your podcast?
On this podcast itself?
Yeah.
Oh, I gave a introductory one when I very first started in 2000. I think it was 18. I sort of told my story. Now and then I'll tell little pieces of it. I've been on other podcasts too. I do speaking and I do talk to academies and stuff. And
wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah, it's recovery is possible. I know 100%. You can get out of any rut you're in. If you find yourself stuck and you're listening to this, I was in my undercover car. This is a story I probably have never even told before. I was in my UC ride at probably around 1 a.m. I was actually living in it at that time. It was the year that everything happened with me, and I ended up getting sober that first January. And I was listening to a talk show on AM 640, I believe, and maybe it was another channel. And I was sleeping in my car. It was for about a 2-week period of time. I was, sleeping in my car, going to work, going home, taking care of my kids. Me and my wife were basically apart, but we're living together. And so I was listening to this talk show, and they had a police officer, a detective on there talking about what we're talking about now. And he was telling my story.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I could not believe it. And I was saying to myself, okay, I'm stuck right now. I am living, basically, I have all my clothes that I need for the next couple of weeks in my locker. I had 2 lockers in the department, and I had a gym and stuff, and no one really caught on to me. I was pretty good at hiding my emotions, of course, and my struggles. And so, but I remember listening to him going, God, that is great. I really wish I could actually get help. And I felt I was just too far gone at that time. And then I got, help eventually. A couple months later, I ended up, going to rehab and pretty much losing everything and then starting all over again. So yeah, there is help available. And I'm sure there's someone listening right now, might be sort of similar circumstances. And it's more widely talked about too, because I remember hearing about this. This was 2011. And I was saying to myself, God, this is a cop talking about recovery and that there's help available. And I cannot tell you to this day who it was, what exact station it was. I think it was AM 640. And, but it really did speak to me, but I did not act. I didn't act, and I had time to, and I chose not to act. And I knew my life was unmanageable and it was going down the toilet quick. And I didn't know how to stop it, but I was too scared to act. So
bless your heart.
Thank you for asking that. Thank you for asking that.
It's if you ever get a chance to hear your story or you tell it more, Mike, please do. And Mike, it's so funny. And I think we talked about this over dinner. When I got into interning and then, working at treatment facilities, I've worked at some phenomenal, women's and also men's addiction treatment and recovery centers. I've been on some phenomenal clinical teams where I really got a chance to dive into recovery and treatment and counseling and diagnosing. I've worked with some phenomenal psychologists and psychiatrists. It's just mind blowing where my path has been. I never in a jillion years, Mike, never in a jillion years, if you said to me, hey, Jim, X amount of years from getting your license, you're going to be doing this. I would say, just get out of my face. There's no way I'd be working with. I've got some amazing clients, that I can't talk about. I've got some amazing, professionals that really brought me along. And one of the most amazing things that has ever happened to me in this career, in life, is having friends who were once in addiction and are now colleagues with me. Just I can cry over that. It's just so amazing that these people, and right? You reached that point where you got sick and tired of being sick and tired. You crashed into the last ditch of your life, maybe, if you have any, blood left, any heartbeats left. And you go through this moment, this season of your life where it's horrible. It's just the worst. Maybe you're in prison, maybe you're in jail, maybe you lost everything. Now where do I go? And look where I'm at. I'm standing outside some house, some place. I'm smoking a cigarette butt that I found off the ground, and I'm going to some meeting right now, But something happens to a person, and when they realize, and I want to infuse your audience that might be struggling. Something happens where you realize that, hey, my life isn't over. I can actually heal. I can actually take a step back, reload, relaunch my life in a brand new direction, and use these horrible experiences that I have to help other people. When I hear people's stories that have been in addiction and recovery, horrible things I can't even imagine. I've got a pretty good imagination, and you hear things just like, what? Unbelievable. And now here we are. Once upon a time, you were sitting over there. You were the guy that was the new guy at the meeting, or the new guy in the house. And now you're sitting next to me in a clinical team meeting. And now you're an addictions counselor. And now we're peers, and now we're friends, and even more friends than ever. My point is, I've got more friends that are in recovery than I do that are normies. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what normies is, that's the old-fashioned term for folks that aren't in addiction. But yeah, and that's mind-blowing in so many directions for me. The last piece on this, I don't want to keep hogging your time. I'm walking, where I live is right across the street from a place where before COVID hit, were having these huge men's meetings. 60 people plus. I'm walking on my dog past, and I'm trying to stay in the shadows, trying to keep far, far away so no one sees me. I want this to have a great meeting, and I just don't want to bother anybody. It's a closed meeting anyway, And so, but my dog is so dang curious. Prairie, she's so dang curious. I can't control it. She goes walking into the door, right? Okay, crap, here we go. And I'm seeing actually people are waving to me. And as I focus on the people that I can see in the windows, it's people that I know from that are active, they're trying to, get their life right, or they're counselors, they're people I work with. And I'm sitting going, God, who knew that I could be walking my dog out here and be recognized and be waved to, and then they come out on their break and they're hugging me. I'm like, this is the best thing on the planet, man. This is too cool for school, And I say that with humility. I'm a lucky and blessed man. By the grace of God go I, and it's talent on loan from God and everybody else who helped me along the way.
Exactly. You put it so perfectly, Jim. Definitely.
Thanks.
Definitely. Yeah. It's a blessing for what we do and the life that we live now. And
yeah.
no matter where you find yourself right now, at the bottom of a bottle or at the end of your, Colt 45, there is a way out. There's an easy way out. We all know that, but there is a way out, and you can get recovered. You can run a really good program, maybe be the man that you always wanted to be that never knew existed.
Right. Or the woman, right? Or the woman that's out there too, Yeah, absolutely. Guys and gals, you are the best expert on you. You know what's going on. You know what you need. You know what you want to do. Never be dismayed. This is from the Bible. Never be dismayed at the day of small beginnings. Never be dismayed. Just turn the corner and step into a new direction. If you want to use heroin, do the opposite of how you feel. If you want to give up on life, do the opposite of how you feel. Okay? Reach out and trust the people that you reach out to. Your wisdom is not going to be in tune yet. Trust the wisdom of the folks that are trying to help you. And if I can say this, man, get humble as quick as you can. Get humble. It's some folks out there that are listening to this don't even see color anymore. Don't even see color anymore. And that moment when a therapist can be a part of that moment, oh my God, Jim, oh my God, Mike, what? I just looked out the window and I can actually see blue again. What are you talking about?
Right.
My world's been gray. I've been seeing gray for all these years. I can actually see colors again. Those are the cool moments in time, Mike, that just captivate me. And what a therapist, what do we do when the clients go home and we're all left alone in our thoughts? Sometimes I'm sad for my clients. Sometimes I cry for my clients. A lot of the times I just smile thinking, nicely done. What happened? They're talking. They're talking. That's the coolest thing. Let's start there, Yeah,
they're improving. We see the improvement in others before they see it themselves most of the time.
Absolutely.
We're so negative for ourselves. And it's the small things, reaching out and actually being vulnerable and feeling that you're in a safe place to talk about your issues, feeling like where you want to live. A lot of times we get to that state of such of depression or anhedonia where nothing really makes us happy anymore. We used to love fishing. We used to love surfing. We used to love hanging out with our family. And now we just, we might not even be involved in drugs or alcohol, or we just might be like, just stuck and not know where to turn. Right. I work right here. I'm in my office right now. And I'm so lucky to get to work here in Newport where, we deal with first responders every single day. And they're from all over the place, all over California and outside of California too. And I'm telling you, it is a gift to, that I get from doing what I do, to see that change for sure.
You touch on something really amazing too. The folks that are listening to us now, they may not be into really difficult areas. They just may be having a rough season, just having a bad day, and we're here to help you too. I always like to look at life more, it's cyclical than linear. To me, it's not 2 steps forward, 1 step back. To me, it's like, I woke up this morning, I was on top of the world, and then something happened along the way. Now I'm down here, whatever that is. I'm here to say, because this has been proven time and time again, at some point you'll be back up on top again. You just got to wait for it. And it's not fun waiting for it when you're down here. It's miserable. We all know. We've all been there. But this is actually where the healing is, when you're leaning in to the pain, when you're sitting in it, crying it out, processing through it. That's where the true wisdom and healing is. People that avoid that, and this is like where drugs and alcohol come in, right? I do not want to feel that. I do not want to feel how bad this is, so I'm going to avoid it. Or they just don't talk about it. It doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. I'm just not going to lean into this. Or, no, this reminds me too much of my trauma that I experienced in life. I'm not going to go there either. Okay, you don't have to, but can you remember that you won't be down here forever? Hold on, get to the top. And if you can't see the hope of future, reach out to those of us who can see it for you. Help slow things down and guide you. So for those out there that are having just a rough day, or maybe you have some depression or some anxiety or some panic or whatever is going on, or maybe the climate of the current world is just bumming you out and you can't shake it, or maybe it's your kids, or maybe it's something health-wise, whatever it is. Reach out. I want to encourage you. Start talking about it. There's lots of folks like me and Mike that are out here waiting to help you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jim. That's a great way to end it, man.
You betcha. Mike, I what a privilege. Thank you so much for the honor of being on your show.
You're welcome.
I can't thank you enough. And you guys got my information if you need to reach out to me. You have my website, my phone number now. And I'm sorry, Mike, I'm keep talking. We're trying to end. Thank you, Mike. Is what I'm
Great.
I need to talk to
we can go back. We can go for part 2, I guess. People driving their cars. Damn, when are they going to stop talking? I'm going to try to call Jim right now.
I need to talk to somebody to help me stop talking.
Well, I got the next Texas Roadhouse. Maybe they should be my sponsor. We do name them so much on this. They're probably going to get a lot of business now.
Oh my gosh. Good idea. Yeah. Let's connect and let's get over there. In fact, the gal who connected us from, can I say Aton on your show?
It's not Aton. It was.
It was not Aton.
Aton's a great facility in San Diego, by the way.
Sorry. Amen. Sorry, guys.
Amen Clinic.
I'm going to call this therapist. He can't remember 2 words that starts with an A. Oh man. Well, bless your heart.
It could be worse, I guess.
You betcha.
There are 2 great places, by the way, Aton and Amen Clinic. So, and Simple Recovery is where I'm at right now. And James McLintock, look him up on the web. He probably pretty much dominates the website. You pay someone very good for that.
Thank
and
you.
Everybody else that's listening, you guys be safe and have a great rest of your week. And don't forget to love one another. So thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
God bless y'all. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for listening to Positive Connections Radio, in affiliation with Mental Health News Radio. Have a great rest of your day, and until next time, be strong, stand up, speak your truth, and break the stigma.